Sam Altman, Sundar Pichai, Dario Modi, Mukesh Ambani, 22 heads of states, 100 countries, $200 billion in investment pledges. India just hosted the biggest AI summit in history. And the only thing that the internet remembers is a $1,600 Chinese robot dog. Yep, a robot dog that a university professor went on national television and claimed was built at her university. The memes, the outrage, the parliament debates, international media calling it an embarrassment for the host country. It was front page news everywhere. But here's the thing no one's talking about. On that same day, in that same building, just a few halls away from that embarrassment, 2 IIT graduates walked up to a stage and launched AI models trained on 16 trillion tokens across 22 Indian languages. Models that outperform Google's Gemini on Indian benchmarks, smart glasses that the Prime Minister tried on, and a platform that could bring artificial intelligence to the 86% of Indians who don't speak English. Their company is called Sarvam AI. They're 3 years old, and they've raised about $41 million. This is the actual story that mattered.
You're listening to Nelson John 360. Nelson John 360.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Nelson John 360. I'm Nelson, and today let me dig deep on a story that I genuinely believe most Indian media missed this week. Not because it wasn't important, but because a professor decided to go on national television and claim a Chinese robot dog as her university's own creation. And the internet chose chaos over substance. Well, today I'm talking about the Sarvam AI, a startup that in under 3 years went from an idea between 2 friends to launching 105 billion parameter AI models, AI-powered smart glasses that the Prime Minister himself tried on, an AI chatbot that speaks your language. And I mean that literally, whether you're in Kerala or Kashmir, and a full-stack sovereign AI platform built entirely in India. Now, I know what you're thinking. Another AI company. Nelson, there's a new one every Tuesday. Well, fair point, but stick with me, because this one is different. And the reason it's different has everything to do with a problem that most of us don't even realize we have. All right, let me throw a number at you. India has approximately 1.45 billion people. And how many do you think can comfortably read, write, and type in English? The answer, depending on which study you look at, is somewhere between 125 and 200 million. That's generous. So roughly 10 to 14%. That's it. Now here's the thing. Almost every major AI system in the world, take your ChatGPT, your Geminis, they were all built with English first. Sure, they can handle Hindi or Tamil to varying degrees, but there is a difference between an AI that supports a language and an AI that was born thinking in it. Do you get the difference? If you've ever tried asking a global AI model a question in colloquial Kannada or code mixed Hinglish, you know what I mean? The responses are fine. They're technically correct, but they don't feel right. Right? It's like talking to someone who learned your language from a textbook, but has never actually lived in your city. This is the gap that Sarvam AI was created to fill. Not to compete with OpenAI on English benchmarks, well, that's someone else's battle, but build an AI that speaks India's languages the way India actually speaks them. 22 official languages, my friends. There are about hundreds of dialects. Voice first, because most Indians interact with their phones through speech, not typing. And this isn't just a nice to have. This is the difference between AI being a tool for the 14% and AI being a tool for everyone. So who's behind this? Two guys, Dr. Pratyush Kumar and Dr. Vivek Raghavan. And their backstories are honestly the kind of thing you'd put in a movie if it didn't sound too on the nose. Pratyush Kumar, IIT Bombay graduate, PhD from ETH Zurich in Switzerland, which, if you don't know, is one of the top 3 tech universities on earth. He worked at IBM Research, Microsoft Research. Then he came back to India, became a faculty member at IIT Madras, co-founded AI for Bharat, this incredible open source initiative that was basically building the foundation for Indian language AI before anyone was paying attention. Think of it as the unglamorous groundwork, the datasets, the speech models, the text corpora that someone eventually had to do. Then there is Vivek Raghavan, IIT Delhi, PhD from Carnegie Mellon, spent 2 decades in Silicon Valley in electronic design automation. Could have stayed there forever. Instead, he chose to come back to India and spent 12 years volunteering with UIDAI. That's the Unique Identification Authority, the folks at the Aadhaar system. He helped build the biometric infrastructure that now serves over 1 billion Indians. He also worked with Ekstep Foundation and contributed to Bahasini, the National Language Translation Mission. So you've got one founder who understands language AI at a research level and another who understands what it means to build technology that works at population scale. In August 2023, they started Sarvam AI. By December of that year, just 4 months in, they raised $41 million from Lightspeed Venture Partners, Peak 15 Partners, that's former Sequoia India, and Khosla Ventures. $41 million for a company that was 4 months old. In India, that tells you something about how seriously the global investment community took these two. So, when we fast forward to February 2026, India is hosting the AI Impact Summit, the 4th in a global series after the UK, Korea, and France. It's the first time a global South nation is hosting. Over 300 exhibitors from 30 countries, $200 billion in investment pledges. The pressure is on. And Sarvam decides to do something pretty audacious. They announced a 14-day, 14-launch streak. One new AI product or model every single day for 2 weeks. Let me walk you through the highlights because, this is where it gets genuinely impressive. First up, the big ones, Sarvam 30B and Sarvam 105B. These are large language models with 30 billion and 105 billion parameters, respectively. Now, parameters, what are they? They are basically the connections in an AI's brain. The more you have, the more complex the thinking. But here's the clever part. They use something called a mixture of experts architecture. The 105B model, which has 105 billion total parameters, but it only activates 9 billion at any given time. Think of it like a hospital. You have hundreds of specialists, but when you walk in with a broken arm, you don't need the cardiologist, right? You get routed to the right expert. That's what this architecture does. It keeps the model powerful but efficient. Cheaper to run, faster to respond. The 30B model was pre-trained on 16 trillion tokens of text. To put that in perspective, if you read 1 word per second, 24 hours a day, it would take you roughly 500,000 years to read that much of text. Both models support 22 Indian languages and were trained from scratch, not fine-tuned on someone else's model. That distinction, it matters. because this is genuinely indigenous technology. And here's a claim that turns heads. Sarvam's CEO, Pratyush Kumar, said at the summit that their 105B model outperforms Google's Gemini 2.5 Flash on Indian language benchmarks. Now, Gemini, as you all know, is backed by Google's trillion-dollar infrastructure. Sarvam is a 3-year-old startup from Bangalore. That's a bold claim. But the benchmarks, at least the ones that have been published, seem to back it up, particularly on optical character recognition for Indian scripts and document understanding. If you've ever tried to scan a, say, Kannada or Bengali document with a global AI tool, you know how badly that usually goes. But Sarvam didn't stop at language models. They also launched Sarvam Case, AI-powered smart glasses designed and manufactured entirely in India. You can think of it as India's answer to Meta's Ray-Ban smart glasses. Built-in cameras, microphones, voice-based interaction in over 10 Indian languages. Mr. Modi himself was the first person to try them on, which, I'll be honest, is the kind of launch moment you cannot buy. They also partnered with HMD, that's the company behind Nokia phones, to bring an AI assistant to feature phones. Think about that for a second. Not smartphones, feature phones. In that demo, a user pressed a dedicated AI button and had a full conversation with the AI assistant in a local language about government schemes. You know, there are still hundreds of millions of Indians using feature phones. If AI only works on a 20,000 plus smartphone, it's really not AI for all, is it? On top of all of this, Sarvam is one of 12 organizations selected under the India AI mission to develop sovereign foundational models. The government has backed them with compute infrastructure support worth 246.72 crore rupees. Now that's roughly $29 million in GPU access through Yotta Data Services and with technical support from NVIDIA. Then there is Bulbul, their text-to-speech system that generates natural-sounding speech in 11 Indian languages with 39 distinct voice styles. Sarvam Akshar for document digitization, Sarvam Studio for multilingual content creation, Saras V3 for speech recognition. Listeners, I'm not listing these to overwhelm you. I'm just listing them because this is what genuine Indian innovation looks like. A full ecosystem, not a single shiny product. While one university was getting evicted for showing off a Chinese robot dog, these folks were quietly rolling out 14 products in 14 days. Now, let me step back and talk about why this matters beyond just one company. There is a term you're going to hear a lot more in the coming years: sovereign AI. It means AI systems that are developed, hosted, and governed within a country's own borders. Your data, well, it stays here. Your models are trained here. Your AI understands your context, your culture, your languages. Right now, India is overwhelmingly dependent on AI systems built in America and China. When an Indian farmer calls a government helpline and gets an AI-powered response, that query might be processed on servers probably in Virginia. When an Indian bank uses AI for fraud detection, the underlying model was probably trained primarily on Western financial patterns. When a student in Coimbatore asks for AI to help with homework in Tamil, the AI is essentially translating its English understanding on the fly. I hope you understand. The risk isn't just about data privacy, though that matters. It's about dependency. And we've seen this in weeks with the tariff chaos, how quickly that can happen. You don't want your AI infrastructure controlled by another country, do you? So India's AI strategy, as outlined by Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnaw at the summit, is to build something frugal, sovereign, and scalable. Currently, we have about 38,000 GPUs under the National Compute Program, with plans to add another 20,000. When you compare that to Meta alone, which reportedly has over 600,000 GPUs, that resource gap is real. But what companies like Sarvam are proving is that clever architecture, mixture of experts, edge computing, voice-first design can close that gap more than raw computing power alone. Now, me being honest with you, because that's what we do here, is Sarvam AI going to replace ChatGPT or Gemini? Probably not. Not tomorrow anyway. The global players have orders of magnitude, more compute, more data, more capital. OpenAI has reportedly raised over $40 billion in funding. Sarvam has raised $41 million. That's 8,000 to 1 ratio. But here's the thing. They don't need to replace them. They need to serve a market that the global players aren't serving well. If you need an AI that can read a handwritten Marathi land record or process a voice command in Bhojpuri or run a Nokia feature phone without internet, Sarvam is not competing with OpenAI. They're competing with the absence of any solution at all. And that's a market of 1 billion people. So the real question isn't whether Sarvam can beat Silicon Valley at their own game. The question is whether India can build an AI ecosystem that works for India, for the tea stall owner in Varanasi, or for the Anganwadi worker in Odisha, for the first generation college student in Nagaland who doesn't think in English. If the answer to that question is yes, then what Sarvam launched recently isn't just a product. It's a proof of concept for an entire country's AI future. Well, as you know, I started this episode with the robot dog, a Chinese-made, commercially available robot dog that was passed off as an Indian innovation and became an international embarrassment. And in that same building, on that same day, 2 IIT graduates who spent a combined 4 decades building India's digital infrastructure launched AI models trained on 16 trillion tokens across 22 languages. Smart glasses the PM tried on, and a platform that could bring AI to 1 billion people who never typed a word in English. That story got few tech press articles and a TechCrunch write-up. I think that contrast says something about what we choose to pay attention to, and I think it's worth correcting. So if this episode made you think differently about India's AI future, please go ahead and share it. Send it to someone who needs to hear the other side of this week's headlines. Because the real story of India's AI summit wasn't that professor from that college or that fake dog or some few protesters here and there. It was the real thing hiding in plain sight. Thank you for listening to Nelson John 360. I'm Nelson, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay smart.